Welcome back to the Unscripted Arena podcast. Today's guest is Noah Garoutte, founder of Forum Social House and Vice Seattle, two of the area's top nightlife spots. He shares his story from a high school dropout turned leader in the Washington nightlife space. From his humble beginnings to welcoming some of the world's best entertainers, he shares insights into what it takes to become successful and to spread mental health awareness. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. Well, good to have you on the show, Noah.
Of course, man.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
I've always been at your clubs, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Little quiet guy on the side there.
100%.
Try to get at the VIP entrance.
No one wants to wait in line.
Nobody wants to
wait
in line.
Especially when it's raining 10 months out of the year. So I get that.
But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe start from high school. And
yeah, sure. So,
because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I moved in to this area in 2006. But I was originally born in Hawaii, Kona, Hawaii, Kealakekua more specifically. Moved to the States when I was 4 or 5, to Oregon specifically. So that's where went to elementary, middle, and high school in Springfield, Oregon, of all places, which, was a unique place to grow up for the most part. Very small town vibes, very kind of mid to low income vibes. But it's a good place, a single parent home. Mom did the best she could. And then,
is that why you moved from Hawaii to Oregon?
Yeah. So it was on my mom's side. So there
Okay.
was definitely some falling out between my mom and my dad. And she wanted to kind of get away. And my dad and that side stayed there. Again, I mentioned I'm a quarter Hawaiian. My dad's half Hawaiian. So that side of the family is, they're still in Hawaii. And then my mom's side, she was originally from Oregon. So she moved back here because she had more stability and more of a foundation here.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, moved to Oregon, lived there a long time. Was a high school dropout. I didn't took a while to find my footing because when you're in those small towns, there's really not much to do.
Uh-huh.
And so that's there's always opportunity to kind of fall in with the wrong thing to do or the
Right.
wrong crowd. And I was definitely, somewhere I fell into, more often than not was, every now and then with the wrong crowd. I still had a good kind of moral compass. So I think that separated me from diving too far down some of those rabbit holes. But
How did you think you developed that moral compass?
So I attribute that. My mom always had a really good moral compass.
Mhm.
She's a great person. She instilled a lot of that in me. But growing up, I also had a big brother. His name was Andre. And
Mhm.
crazy enough, I just found him. And I didn't realize his first name was his middle name. My mom finally told me that. But I finally found him, and he lives in Oregon. He's got 2 kids going off to college, but he was my big brother. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with Big Brother, Big Sister program,
Mhm.
but kids without dads, they essentially put you with a big brother to kind of, take you out and do activities,
Yeah.
give you that role model. So I also attribute a lot of that to Andre. And Andre was a great person growing up. I loved, ate, and breathed basketball.
Mhm.
And so he played for University of Oregon. He was this 6'5" giant. I was this tiny kid. So as you can imagine, as a kid looking up to that, who, former basketball player,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
me, that was awesome because I get to like pick his brain about basketball. I get to hang out with this dude. So he filled in some of those gaps. So I think that definitely had a hand in kind of filling out that moral compass to a certain extent.
Nice.
So that was good. So, lived there for a long time. Again, fell in with some of the wrong crowds. I resorted to certain things to get by, whether that be, dealing at a very young age and things like that. And then from that, my brother who lived in Seattle, Washington, he worked at Microsoft, obviously, had issues here and there with the law and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And he's like, hey, come out here, and that gave me the opportunity to stay with him for a few months and really reinvent myself. So when I moved out here, I knew no one but my brother. I started working at Starbucks, and that was my first job.
Which one?
The one in Rose Hill. So it was
Okay.
literally like top 5 in the nation. How busy it was.
Yeah.
And I actually attribute a lot of my.
What year was that?
That was like 06, 07.
Yeah, I think I might have been Spending a lot of time
You
studying there.
you could have been. It was a huge study place. But for me, it also they had a drive-through and it taught me how to balance and multitask because it was such a high volume Starbucks. So I really accredit it to a lot of some of the work ethic that I have, even though I do not swear by Starbucks anymore. But it gave me a good foundation. And not only the foundation, it gave me a good kind of pool of people for me to
Mhm.
talk to. And, I was very lonely when I first moved out here, not knowing anybody. So that was good for me to kind of meet those people and really, again, like kind of reinvent myself and start from scratch. And a lot of the things that followed me in Oregon and Springfield, it's a small town. You get caught up with the law, that everyone knows that and you get a target of sorts. So coming out here, being able to just kind of start from scratch really helped me, forge my own path instead of being given the path that I had back in that small town, Springfield. So that was great.
So how did you transition from Starbucks to the nightlife world?
That's a great question. So, at Starbucks, there was a coworker, and her name was Mimi. Great, friend back then. One of my first friends in Seattle. And so she was going on a trip to Las Vegas, and I had never heard or even thought about going to Las Vegas. I was a 21-year-old guy,
Uh-huh.
and I saved up all my tip money from Starbucks, and I was like, "Yeah, I can get a room at the Mirage and have my first Vegas trip." So on that Vegas trip, I met who my is now my business partner, former mentor Roger Eng.
Uh-huh.
So it was just this huge group, and she introduced me. There was a big kind of motorcycle. They all kind of ride bikes. And then somewhere they were in the nightlife industry, nightclub industry. And then Mimi on the side, she worked as a bottle server.
Mhm.
And, that
In
introduced
in
me.
Vegas?
No, in
In
Seattle. So
Seattle.
I just
Okay.
kind of rode her wave, sorry,
Yeah.
to Las Vegas and meet all these people on this vacation trip, and Roger was one of them. And it was really cool. I got to meet him and pick his brain. And I was like, oh man, obviously going to the nightclubs there, it was very eye opening. There was, this is before bottle service was a big thing in Washington and all that. So meeting him, I got to pick his brain and learn a little bit about nightlife. And I was like, oh man, this is something. I'm a night owl.
Right.
I'm not a morning person.
That's
And
that's why we changed the time to
yeah. And I dabbled with some of that. I worked
Yeah.
at a dive bar in Eugene, Oregon before I left, just mopping up vomit as a bar back. So it was cool. And we just talked about it. And then from there, Roger had an opportunity at Lucky Strike, and he took over the nightlife entertainment manager role, and he needed a VIP host.
Mhm.
And he's like, hey, I want to, you remember what we were seeing in Vegas at this place called Body English. Love that nightclub. It was a
Yeah.
staple.
That was at the Hard Rock, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Incredible club, but the service was so incredible. And so before this, Lucky Strike just had tables people would sit at. There was no bottle service. There was nothing like that. And he invited me to come be the VIP host, VIP manager. So we did that. My first night was New Year's Eve. Probably not the best night to start, but made it work. And we sold, I believe, 18 tables and generated something like 10, 15, or no, it was New Year's. So like 15 or 20 grand in just table sales
Wow.
alone on the first night. So it was great, and it broke me into the nightlife industry, and I put a lot of that multitasking I learned at Starbucks to work,
Yeah.
and it served well for me. I'm very organized. I'm a detail oriented person, so a lot of that boded well. But yeah, that's how I started at Lucky Strike, and
And
then
you
just
got to
grew
meet a
from
lot
there.
of people just being a
Yeah,
VIP host.
yeah. As a VIP
Yeah.
host, Lucky Strike was really cool. Parlor was right upstairs.
Mhm.
Used to be Parlor up there before this really incredible company took it over. But Parlor used to be a comedy club as well as they had nightlife. But a funny thing there, Manny was the opener, and he would always, the comedians that came in town, they didn't like drinking there because they kind of get bombarded.
Mhm.
So Manny would always be like, "Hey, DL Hughley or Pauly Shore," where I would take him out with Manny to different bars. So I had this crazy exposure. And imagine a high school dropout
Right.
kid who like never had
From
anything.
Springfield.
Yeah, from Springfield coming here, and he's like, "Oh, hey, these comedians need to go out. Come, show them a good time."
Yeah.
Was really cool. So got to experience that. Got to meet a lot of really cool different personalities and comedians. And then from there, yeah, with just table service in general in downtown Bellevue, got to meet a lot of really cool people through that also.
So how did you get the big idea to say, you know what, I want my own place? Because you're the man now. You got the Forum Social House,
Hmm.
arguably the best spot in town for nightlife,
Yeah.
right? And then now you just open up Vice. So
Hmm.
so when did that big idea came? And I also would love to hear how you handled the pandemic because you opened around that time.
Yep. Yeah. So first question, yeah, it was long in Roger and I's mind that it was a nightclub. We wanted to open a nightclub. We didn't entertainment venue kind of serendipitously came about, but we
Now,
wanted to
how far into?
we were so we I was at Lucky about 6 years, and then Roger and I knew that we wanted a nightclub of our own. That was
Mhm.
just always our dream. Something we've talked about late nights. Funny thing about Roger, like he'll call you're on call anywhere from midnight to 4 a.m. and he'll call at 3 a.m. and we'll have a talk for an hour about a nightclub, and I'll see the sun coming up, and I'm like, okay, we should go to bed. But yeah, so we always wanted to do that, and I realized at this time, I was only had the experience at Lucky Strike. So I went to work for one of the top achieving nightclubs at the time in 2016, Q Nightclub, because I
Mm,
realized I didn't have that experience for Seattle. How can I go open a nightclub in Seattle when I haven't even been a part of the landscape? I wanted to do it justice. I wanted to learn about the market. I wanted to learn about the trends, the
mhm,
what shows were getting booked and how they were performing. So I went to work at Q for a couple of years, and that was very specifically to get me enough experience so that when we opened that nightclub, I could have that confidence with Roger.
mhm.
So I was at Q for a couple of years, got it under my belt, and then we're like, we're ready. And we started shopping nightclubs. The first one we looked at was called 88 Keys. Well, actually, I think that was the second one. The first one we looked at was, we talked with Last Supper Club, and
Ah,
then it was Box House thereafter. We talked about that location. A little bit worrisome as far as the build out it would take to get there. But then we looked at 88 Keys, which is now Stadium.
mm,
We were very deep in talks with that location. And, we were putting our ducks together, putting our financials together.
yeah,
And Amir comes in the,
yeah.
seventh, eighth hour, and which is great. It was a perfect location for Amir, and he's absolutely crushing it. But for us, it was
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I see a mirror walking around town every
he's
now and
always around.
then. Yeah.
He calls himself the Seattle point guard, and I think that's very fitting because what he's been doing for so long. Like I've been looking up to Amir since I was just a club goer in back in 2008 or 9. Um, but yeah, so he pulled the trigger first, and that worked well for him. And for us, we didn't really get all our ducks in a row in time. And so that fell by the wayside. And then we started hearing these rumblings about the parlor in Bellevue. They potentially looking for a different, refresh there. Whether that's with their current owners, they'd be very open to new owners. And so that's where we just started talking through it with our contacts at Kemper, and we realized, oh, this is actually something that could be tangible. So we knew Dolph, who was the CEO over at Top Golf. He used to be at
Mhm.
Lucky Strike,
Yeah.
and so we had that connection, and we knew that Top Golf, the brand equity Top Golf has, would be fantastic in
Mhm.
Bellevue.
Yeah.
Like it's a no brainer, and this is before they had all these locations. This is again 2018, 19. So their rapid ascension was 19 to 23 of
Mhm.
building. But we knew that they came out with these at the time. It was new, called Top Golf Swing Suites. And so these swing suites wasn't just golf, it was entertainment driven. And there was like zombie dodgeball and fast pitch baseball, all these things that leaned into what we wanted, which was entertainment. We didn't want strictly a golf venue
Mhm.
because we're going to, go bankrupt trying to just sell to golfers
Yeah.
in,
Well,
in
yeah, the
Bellevue.
Kirkland one closed.
Yeah, Kirkland one
Yeah.
close. I mean, it's so you can't just, reach the demo of golf purists. You have to cast a very wide net, especially in Kemper property where the rent is not cheap. Um, so we knew that we wanted entertainment. And from there, we started talking to Topgolf, and they were very open. And they actually looked at a space in Kemper, but they couldn't make the numbers work. So for us, it was like they're like, "Yo, if you can put fly the Topgolf flag and bring the swing suites in there, you guys are responsible for the
Yeah.
rent. Great, win-win." And so we were like, "Yeah, we'd be open to that." And then we had the other side. So Parlor had a ton of pool tables. We're like,
Uh-huh.
"What do we do with this? Pool is nothing wrong with pool, but
Right.
it's not. It's a little dated in that we want to be more cutting edge. We want to be pushing entertainment forward. So we thought mini golf,
Yeah.
and we loved mini golf. So we wanted to create this selfie inspired mini golf. We like the throughput of mini golf. We played with everything from bocce ball to mini golf to a couple other ideas.
Mhm.
But mini golf was cool because we could personalize it. We can make themed holes. The UFO hole. Raj came up with unicorn polo, where
Yep.
you sit on a unicorn and putt with one hand, and that is a great selfie
Yeah.
opportunity. So our big thing was we wanted to convert our guests into brand ambassadors by giving them a million selfie opportunities that they
Yep.
share, and then all of a sudden, right, we're getting marketing ROI out of our guests, which was the original idea. So
Oddly enough, I was just in LA and they have a bocce ball place.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, bocce ball was another one we were fleshing out. It's a pretty big footprint, but we like it. I mean,
Mhm.
the place in Capitol or by Seattle U does pretty well.
Oh, they have one over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, I forgot the name of it. But they do pretty well. So we like bocce.
Yeah.
But it was also a little bit more foreign
Mhm.
versus mini golf, where a
Yeah,
lot of people
everybody knows me. Yeah.
exactly. And it's less culturing the guest on the
Mhm.
experience versus mini golf, everybody knows. And it's a little more selfie inspired. It's hard to get selfies out of bocce.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
So yeah, you're sand and the ball. So that was interesting. But yeah, so all those things came together, and we knew nightlife. We were doing nightlife at Lucky for 6, 7. Roger was doing it for 9,
Mhm.
10 years. So we knew that nightlife would be a seamless integration. So you got Top Golf Swing Suites. You got, we call it Par One Mini Golf is the brand we created with
Uh,
this selfie inspired mini golf, and then Rockwell Sound Lounge, which was nightlife. So that gave us a big umbrella, right?
yeah.
We could market to kids' parties for our mini golf. We could market to the Bellevue elite crowd for bottle service and giving them an elevated nightlife experience. We casted a very wide net, and all of our concepts allowed us to do so.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a good recipe for success. I know you mentioned COVID, so yeah, we were supposed to open summer 19.
Uh,
Um, Obviously, building in Bellevue, I don't know a single person who's ever opened on time, just with how much, red tape
Regulation.
is involved in like building in the city, and how much is being built in the
you know,
city.
we had just we just had the mayor on and maybe
Yeah,
asked him maybe speed up the process.
yeah, I know, right? I'd love his contact info. No, but no,
Mm.
that was big for us as far as how long it took to build. I actually said I'm not going to shave until it was built out, like a
Uh-huh.
little fun thing. And we took the space over in March, and we're like, we're going to open by July. Didn't open until December, so I was like this grizzly man because I stick to my word. I didn't shave
Right.
until it opened. But yeah, so it was funny. Like right coming up October, November, meeting with different vendors and people. I'm just like, who's this grizzly bearded man? It's like telling me about his entertainment concept. But yeah, so we opened in 2019. We very specifically didn't have private events because we didn't want our staff to get overwhelmed.
Mm.
So our staff morale was at the forefront of our mind as well. But we opened in 2019, no private events, and we did about $1 million in that first month, and
Nice.
so it was well received. People enjoyed it. I think Bellevue needed it because there was nothing really new on that property for a while. So we did really well out of the gate. Finally, was able to shave. Um, but then obviously COVID hit. The first case of COVID in the US was in Kirkland.
Yeah.
And we were very on the forefront of like safety protocols and stuff like that. So come March, we were, dealing with all of that. Obviously, all the business dried up. There's no corporate events. Like, no, Microsoft's not booking during a pandemic. So that was very tough. We experienced that, and eventually it got to the point where we had to fully close our doors
Mhm.
because that's the governor, mandated shutdown. So we just had to bide our time through that. We opened up our kitchen. Any of our team members, like this food's gonna go bad, take it home with you.
Mhm.
We wanted to go to somewhere, whatever we could do for you guys to help you kind of weather this storm because we didn't
Mhm.
know how long it was going to be. We did it, and we wanted the best for our team members, and we wanted as many of them to come back when this was all done.
Mhm.
So we were hoping it would be very quickly, but obviously it wasn't. It
Yeah.
was going on for a year or two, but But yeah, so we were able to secure PPP. Landlord worked with us best they could.
Nice.
I think if none of that occurred, we would have probably filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And we all put our homes on the lines with personal guarantees.
Mhm.
So one of the conversations we had was whose place were we going to sell
First.
and who we were going to all move in. That was my place because I had the condo. None of us could move into my condo. So we were talking about potentially selling my condo to pay whatever we needed to. I would go live in Roger's garage and we would weather the storm that way. But thank God it didn't come to that.
Yeah.
But it was scary there for a while.
Yeah, I think PPP money, a lot of people, that money was forgiven if you filed it.
Yeah, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
We were able to pay down all of our payroll.
Yeah.
So just about 95% of it was forgiven, I think. So yeah, that was huge. And it was definitely a good lifeline.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to open up another spot?
So again, Roger and I always wanting that nightclub. Like it was still in the back of our mind. Yeah. It was always in the back of our mind. And the thing we like about nightlife is obviously we know it inside and out. So when we're not performing or the metrics aren't there on certain, time periods or whatnot, we know what to tweak. We know how to cut back our labor. We know how to instill a headliner if we need to, pay the money to make the money. So there's a lot of contingency protocols that we have for nightlife. So, and me and Roger, that was always our dream. So with Forum, once we were coming out of COVID, we were performing again and we're doing well. So we made enough money through our disbursements to take our first little money that we made and put it in this nightclub. So, it's Vice Seattle in Capitol Hill was, a brainchild of us, as well as Guy, who used to work at Trinity. Then he worked at Lucky Strike. He was a natural partner for us in, kind of spearheading and running the ship, where Guy, Raj, and Roger and I could make sure everything else was fine-tuned. I'm in there a little bit more than the other two guys with Guy running the place. But yeah, I think it was a long time coming and we finally found the perfect spot. We knew we preferred not taking over an existing club, because you see that so much in Seattle.
Yeah.
It's, slap a different sign on it and
like
call it
foundation.
something.
Foundation's been like 10 places.
Yeah, and the squares had stage and Ohm and, changed hands a few different times. So we wanted it to be a fresh, new experience. And we can only get that by not just slapping a name on a pre-existing club, but building our own. So I think we pretty successfully did that. I think we built out what was previously a wedding event space. We got the bar up and running. We built out the stages, the risers, the VIP booths, but we also put a very customized sound and AV system in there. Jameson, Ben, and co, just our team there, Chris, created such a really amazing AV experience with the LED strips and the LED wall and how their programming manipulates the room, obviously cryo cannons, all that stuff. So it's a very experiential place when you go in there for a show. And so, yeah, that was to see it all. Like literally, we just opened last week, but to see it all come to fruition.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was very gratifying and gives us all the confidence in the world when we want to do nightclub 2.
So looking back, right? You're in high school. I mean, could you have imagined what you've built?
No, not at all.
Right.
I think the
and did how you grow up give you this drive to strive for more? Right, because you, like you say, you didn't go to college. I thought you went to college because you're always pushing the ducks. So.
Yeah, that was part of my growing up. But no, I don't think, and the reason I pushed the ducks, we talked about this a little bit, but so my mom worked at the Big Brother Big Sister, and growing up in Springfield, Eugene, Oregon, that's just your team. You don't have a pro NFL team, you don't have a baseball team. You got the Blazers. Blazers were my first team. But you didn't have much. But growing up, there was the duck mascot. Everyone's familiar. They're doing the push-ups and stuff. But when I was young, there was also a little duck. And so my mom, working at Big Brother Big Sister, always volunteered me to be the mini duck. So I was a little duck mascot running around the duck games at the age of like 8 and 9. So getting that experience early on, that made me just to defend
Yeah.
being a Duck fan. Okay. I didn't go there, but that's how that sprouted from.
Yeah.
But from high school, I don't know, man. Like I always was somehow gravitated toward business. So my first foray into business, we'd always have garage sales as a kid, and I opened up Noah's card shop. And I sold baseball, basketball, football cards to people who come up. I would wheel and deal, and I was like 6 years old.
Wow.
And so I'd just have these, and I'd try to do it official. I have my little cash box. I have my little display case that I found at Goodwill. Like I put together a legit little card shop at my little garage sales, and that was my first foray into business. As I got a little older, and my mom lost her job, and so single parent living off government assistance, to a certain extent, food stamps and all that. I needed to make my own money to a certain extent. So that's where I started selling weed, man. And that's, I didn't sell anything else.
It's all legal now.
Yeah, it's legal now. At the time it wasn't.
Right.
At the time you had to go to 7-Eleven, not like some curated, Bed Bath and Beyond of weed.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time that's, so I started selling weed, and that's, learning buy low, sell high, learning the structure.
Such a simple concept.
Yeah, right. But I was selling, like I always had the gift of I was a young kid, but I looked older and I could talk to anybody. So literally I was selling to some of my teacher aides. I was selling to some of my teachers. I was selling to some of my friends' parents.
Wow.
They didn't know that. But I kept it very low key. And I was respectful about it, right? And I always believed, even at that time, that weed shouldn't have been classified a drug.
Yeah.
I think alcohol was more harmful than weed. And,
sugar, even sugar.
Yeah. Or sugar, any of that, man. Like weed actually helps with certain clinical things.
Yeah.
Like a lot of this other stuff doesn't. So that's where I swore by weed. And what's funny is I got busted as a kid. I had a dead pot plant in my closet, and it was just a fun thing. We were joking around. My friends got my house raided because of something totally secular. I was innocent in this, outside of they found a dead pot plant in my closet, and they arrested me for manufacturing. Full-blown felony manufacturing.
Wow.
I was shocked by that. But anyway, what can you do? So I started doing
15 years old, or
I was
14.
13.
And
I started selling.
And you're a manufacturer.
At 13, yeah. That's what I was classified as. But thank goodness it was juvenile record.
Yeah.
But from there, I started I wanted to prove a point. And I was like, weed isn't that bad. Like, I get whatever. And so they had me go to rehab. I was in rehab with heroin addicts, cocaine addicts, people who did all these drugs. And I was like, I'm not this. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone is battling these things, and addiction is a horrible thing. But for me, I'm like, I'm going to prove a point.
Yeah.
I never gave a single clean UA. Every single one was dirty with obviously just THC.
Yeah.
And what I did during that process was I went to my school. I got a 4.0. I was at top of every single class. I started helping other kids, like the teacher's aide, with some of the other students. And then I got student of the month.
Wow.
So I went back to the rehab. I showed them my grades.
Yeah.
I showed them my student of the month certificate, and they graduated me.
Wow.
Never a clean UA. But I was like, I'm going to show you guys, like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, people who need help should be in here. I don't really need help.
Yeah.
And because I smoke weed on occasion doesn't mean that I can't do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Kind of, this is a 13, 14-year-old kid having this revelation. So I grew up pretty quick, having the single mom and being a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
But that was like a big one for me. And that was a milestone for me because I was like, I proved it. I proved it. Like, it's not that bad. Like, you can still be a student of the month and a 4.0 student and be incredible and smoke weed. I don't think you could do that with some of the addiction these other people are facing. So they graduated me, and that was very gratifying for me because I was like, I proved that stigma. Like, there are benefits to it. And for me, I was very diagnosed OCD. So my brain is always racing. And then I am insomniac. So I'm diagnosed insomnia. I cannot sleep. That's the only reason I did it as a kid, was
to
sleep. Yeah, because my brain is always racing at night. So I was up until 4 a.m. almost every night, and then trying to get up for school, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that was no fault of my mom or anyone else. That was just me. Like, I didn't get any meds for insomnia, and the weed helped. And that's what I did.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to Zekin for making this happen. They have an amazing platform. Check out their website, zekin.com, zeacon.com.
So besides the nightlife, what else are you passionate about?
So nightlife is big. Entertainment, we're working
Hmm.
on entertainment concepts down the road, but I'm also on the board of a mental health charity,
Hmm.
and so it's called Mental Health Inside Out. And so the goal here, and I partnered
Hmm.
with just a dynamo
Creative.
in of a person. Like his name is Sean Mitchell,
Hmm.
and right
Is
there
is
on.
that
Yep,
Sean
that's
Mitchell?
Sean.
Okay.
He created clothing brand that goes along with this called No Name No Face,
Hmm.
and it's about the journey of some of the mental health struggles. But so we started this mental health charity, and the idea is we're essentially raising. Well, what we're combating is isolation, and we
Mm.
want to combat things like teen suicide and isolation with bringing people together, making sure that people aren't isolating and know that they have a support system. And so, with Mental Health Inside Out, we're raising money, and the goal is to bring forth mental health inside outlets. So, get us a brick and mortar, and what will
Mhm.
house in that brick and mortar is free therapy for people who need it.
Mm.
They can sign up, therapists donate their time, and they get free therapy sessions. But it's not just the therapy side. We have, and we achieve combating isolation through art therapy. And what that means is we have paint classes at this place where people can come in who have depression, who have severe anxiety, and
Yeah.
they can come in and paint with people, right? They're not in their room alone,
Uh-huh.
doom scrolling. They're here painting. Or like one of the rooms, we're going to have like video games. Like
Yeah.
come in and play Call of
Right.
Duty or whatever, like Madden. Like, so there's video games, there's painting, creative writing classes. So essentially, it's a brick and mortar that houses place where kids and young adults, and even adult whoever,
Mhm.
can combat isolation and come in and talk to people who are also going through some of the similar things they're going, and realize they're not alone in this, battle for mental health or mental wellness. So that way, we can kind of create a support system for each other and look out for each other.
Mhm.
And through these things like, creative writing or painting or even playing video games. So we leverage those things with, a therapist who's going to donate their time and
Mhm.
give people these free therapy sessions for the people who need it most. And a lot of people can't afford those therapy sessions. Like, I don't want to dive down the rabbit hole of our healthcare system,
Yeah.
but like there's a lot to
We'll
be
save that
desired.
for a different show.
Yeah, for sure. We can go hours, but yeah, there's a lot to be desired. So, yeah.
So how did that come about? I mean, where did the motivation come from that?
So I've always, my family, I feel like everybody, by extension of maybe one person, knows someone who's either battling depression, severe anxiety, some of these things. And, we all face it in our life. I have family members who have attempted to unlife and things like that. So it hits home for me because obviously it's rife in my family. But at the same time, oddly enough, the founder, Sean, we met on a whim. I bought a home and he was um giving me a deal on my heat pump
Mm.
and like changing out my heat pump.
Yeah.
But he's this incredible salesman. But
Uh-huh.
not only that, he's the most genuine dude, one of the most genuine dudes I've ever met. And so we talked about the heat pump for 10 minutes. We talked about life and who
Wow.
we are and where we wanted to be for an hour. And like so meeting this guy and
Mhm.
just he was telling me about his struggles, and he saw, he loved my artwork in my home, and he's like, can I pick your brain? Like I told him about Forum Social House and I'm an entrepreneur, and he's like, can you mentor me? I'm like, absolutely, man.
Mhm.
Like once a month, like
Yeah.
let's meet, dude. So that stemmed from there, and he had this mental health charity idea, and it just spawned from there.
Mhm.
So literally, he goes from fixing my heat pump to being on a board with me of this
Wow.
charity he created. But I think really it was a matter of genuine people gravitating towards genuine people, and
Mhm.
I saw that in Sean, and I saw he was such a good person, and I wanted to get on board with that, whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing, Sean? Like, you're such a great person. Like, let's do it. Like, he's the type of person he'll make you run through a wall for him, and in a good way. And
Wow.
so partnering with someone like that was an honor.
No, I think that's amazing because we had another guy here, a good friend of mine, and he has the Joy Hour
Oh, cool.
because of people dealing with isolation, depression, addiction,
Addiction's a big one.
and just helping people, right? So he does this thing once a month where it's happy hour without the alcohol.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he has
That's
bouncy
awesome.
houses for kids and whatnot.
That's amazing.
They have it at the Auburn Junior Achievement Building.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe there's some crossover there.
could be. You know.
That's awesome.
I'll have to introduce you guys.
Yeah, please do.
But so you're also starting a coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
Are you just connecting all the things you enjoyed as a youth?
Kind of. I didn't think about that. No, when I first moved out here, obviously my first job was Starbucks.
Yeah.
So, in business, you want to leverage what you know. We've had opportunities of acquiring, a muffler shop, all these things. I don't know crap about cars.
Just
dude.
put some strobe lights in the shop.
I know. I know entertainment. I know nightlife. I somewhat know coffee. So those were no brainers, but also, it's going to be a hybrid of, I can't share too much before we open it, but it's going to be a hybrid of coffee and another culture that I'm very passionate about.
Okay. Be excited to go study there.
Yeah, please do. But yeah, so it's not your typical coffee shop. And what we're going to do, and I can share, is we're going to leverage the retail. A lot of times you go into a coffee shop and it's this, exposed wood, rustic, very cool, same
it's
everywhere,
like the third
same
wave.
shit everywhere. Yeah. And then their retail. Hey, look, our logo's on a cap, on a trucker hat. Hey, look, our logo's on a hoodie. Cool. But we want to leverage the retail. So, and nothing wrong with that for anybody who has those guys. But we want to leverage we want to leverage the retail to be something that's more approachable, but that's going to give you more ROI and more frequency of purchase. So, a lot of times on those display shelves with the hoodies and the whatever, those things are collecting dust. So you can go into half of those places and when you get one of those hoodies, it's dusty as hell. And there's a reason for that, because it's not a lot. So for me, it's leveraging our success with a good retail proponent. And then on the pastry and coffee side, we're going to have Asian flavors, kind of going back to my Hawaii roots. Ube flavor, ube lattes, but a lot of pastry, a lot of high-end pastries that are really good pastries, not just an afterthought. And that's what I take into any business. I try to make the afterthoughts strengths and anchors. So, for instance, when people think entertainment food, they think freezer to fryer. They think French fries, they think cheeseburgers, they think fried macaroni and cheese maybe. So that's why at Forum, it's a from scratch kitchen. It's not all freezer to fryer. We're maybe 15% freezer to fryer.
Wow.
So, that's what we wanted to flip on its head. And for coffee, we want to flip when people go in, not the retail experience you're thinking. We want to leverage it with cool, good retail items that I can't share, but are going to be amazing. And leverage it that way. Yeah. So like those are things, and we do that with all of our business, mini golf, instead of just clowns and windmills, right? Unicorns and UFOs, right? We're all about optimizing and bringing things into the new generation. And oddly enough, we're doing the same thing with mental health, like with our charity. Like so many people is like, okay, you go to the ballroom and you eat your salmon and you vote on, or you bid on the thing, and there's a little silent auction over here, and then all this, old people with money go home. No, we want art included. Like we just did our first charity event, and there was a breakdancing troupe that was incredible.
Oh, wow.
We had Ray, an LA artist, come in and sing from her new album. We had Sean give us the most jaw-dropping spoken word performance ever. So these are things like we're trying to bring these charity events into the new age. Doesn't need to be.
When was this?
So this was about 3 weeks ago, a week before my grand opening of the nightclub. Yeah. So it's been a busy 3 weeks, but
I was in LA.
Yeah, you should have came through, man. But our next one is going to be a fashion show, and we're going to invite you.
Okay.
But yeah, like these are just things like bringing things to the new age, and there's a space for people who are doing that. And a lot of these companies that you see succeeding, it's because they're not doing it the same old way. They're reinventing it and finding new ways to do it that no one else is doing. And so I find a huge amount of value in that, not just with our entertainment and not just with the nightclub, but also with our charity work, right? And making it more of an art theme and an art collective as opposed to a stuffy ballroom with salmon and you're just bidding on items so they can take
salmon or beef.
Yeah, salmon or beef. Exactly. That's what it is. But now watch, I'll have an event in 3 years and
we sit down.
Do not troll me.
Raise the paddle.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know. So yeah, it's just a lot of bringing things into new age and leveraging, you know, the new age versus the old ways we used to do things.
Yeah. So on another show we had, we talked about barriers, right? Did you find any barriers as you were thinking, as you were going on this journey of being a big, major entrepreneur?
Yeah. I mean, financials.
Financial. But how about just like, because, I've heard some people go through imposter syndrome.
100%. So
right?
Imposter syndrome is very real. Not knowing, like, because once your first time doing something, you're not, this, savant at it. You're kind of clunky. You're figuring out your way.
Did you find the people that you were working with were open, or did they put up these walls like, oh, you shouldn't be opening up?
I definitely think we had to prove ourselves. But the nice thing about us is when you get us in a room, if you get us in a pitch room, we've never gone into a pitch room and not blown someone away.
Right.
And the reason,
so you come prepared.
Yeah. And I think in those pitch rooms also, we're doing things like I just said. We're not giving them the traditional pitch. Mm-hmm. Like one of our pitches had the 3 of our high school photos in it.
Really?
And because
sounds like a Shark Tank.
Kind of, but it's because they're all from here. So it's like that was conveying that we're not just operators who are coming here from LA or New York. We eat and breathe this market, and we are raised here.
Yeah.
So my partner is born and raised in Washington, and they've been going to middle of high school here. I moved here in 2006. I've been here long enough. I've lived nowhere longer than I've lived here.
Yeah.
So I'm a Seattleite or a Washingtonian. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was a big part of it in those pitch rooms. But I think also a lot of people going from a VIP host. I think some people also see me, and this is why I don't share certain things where people have an assumption of you.
Yeah.
So if I share,
they'll put you in a box.
Exactly.
Right?
And if I share that I smoke weed, they're going to think I'm a lazy pothead.
Yep.
So I don't share that, and I don't smoke a lot of weed now. But if I ever need to go to sleep, I might.
Yeah.
But there's a reason I don't share that stuff, because people are going to put you in a box. I grew up poor. I didn't have a bunch of the resources out here. Like I didn't have a safety net. I was on a hang glider just flying around. And if I fell, I fell. But that gives you the best kind of, appreciation and context for it. But I definitely think there was a level of imposter syndrome, especially when we opened Forum Social House. I went from, working at nightclubs or Lucky Strike to I have 90 employees. Their well-being
CEO now.
Is tied to me. Yeah. And
you're feeding families.
Yep. And I wake up every morning and know that those people are a priority that need to be at the forefront of my mind. Those 80, 90 employees at Forum. I wake up and I know the 20 employees at Vice and their team members, not employees, but I wake up and those people are a priority. And that, not just imposter syndrome, but that can give you a good level of anxiety. Because you're responsible for these people's well-being, but not only their well-being, getting to where they're going. And that's why I think when we opened Forum, we had 0% attrition, which is unheard of when you have 80 or 90 employees, but we had 0% attrition. And I think that's because we made it very clear to our team members that we want to see them get to where they're going. And an example of this is one of them wanted to be a barber. And like, I can't make you a barber at Forum Social House. Unfortunately, that's not a program we have here. But if you show me you're a good team member, you show up on time, whatever, I'm going to reach out to my friend Amar or somebody, and I'm going to get you a chair somewhere so you can get to where you're going in life. I gain nothing by wringing out people for everything I need out of them, but holding them back from where they're going. So I think we're transparent in that. Instead of saying, no, we want you to get to where you're going. Because
I mean, you know that those roles, they're not forever.
100%.
Right?
It's a transient industry. Yeah. And for the people who do want to grow within our 4 walls and want to be a manager or regional or a director of sales,
that opportunity's there.
100% there. But more often than not, some people are going to college and they're coming to work for me. And then they're going off after the fact. And I think gone are the days of the ivory tower management. Thank goodness COVID did away with a lot of this, who are just like, do as I say, not do as I do, bark down to their team members.
What's your 5-year goal?
Yeah. But I think gone are those days, and now there's a lot more reinforcing your team members and wanting them to get to where they're going. And I think any successful company currently, because a lot of those drowned out who had that ivory tower management, who were these big box corporations that were faceless, a lot of those bottomed out. But I think a lot of the ones that are successful understand that now, especially in the food and beverage industry. Yeah. These aren't people who, they may not be with your company for 10 years. They may be there for 2.
I think that's very important to really highlight. I'm glad you said that.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're here too, it's not that, you're doing what you hate. We want it to be enjoyable. We want you to put your best foot forward. But, we also understand you're not going to be with us forever. But also, I will exhaust my personal resources. If you're good to me, if you're a good team member, I'm going to call that barber to see if I can get you a chair. I'm going to call my friend who's an accountant because you just graduated and you want to be an accountant. I'm going to exhaust my personal resources, because if you do right by me, who the hell am I not to do right by you?
Yeah. Especially if they've given, those aren't easy hours to work.
No, not at all. So. Yeah. 100%. For me, I'm a night owl, but no, for most people, it's not. I mean, it's very eclectic hours and inconsistent. For us, our summertime at Forum is the downtime. For Vice, summertime is gangbusters because it's the hill. But that's where a lot of that stuff comes into play. And, and then come winter, all of a sudden we have dozens of holiday parties every week. Yep. So they may be coming in at 9 a.m. one day and then 5 p.m. the next day. And so I appreciate how hard that is for a lot of people.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Now you have an impressive sneaker collection.
I do.
Yeah. Talk to me about that.
I grew up, playing basketball. I loved basketball. That was my favorite thing. But once my mom lost her job, I couldn't afford basketball shoes or anything like that. First credit card I got, I maxed it out on the very first pair of LeBron James shoes in 2004 when he was coming into the league. But yeah, I've always loved sneakers, man. The things about me, I love sneakers. I really love old toys, old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joes, stuff like that. And comics and sports cards, man. I'm a collector. I've always been a collector as a kid. Again, that's why I had that little card shop. But yeah, shoes are a big part of that. And shoes will be a part of my future business plans moving forward. Yeah. But yeah, I've just always had a passion for it. Being a basketball freak and kind of being that sneakerhead kind of comes with the territory. But again, once I started making enough money to afford sneakers, that reinvigorated that passion, right? Because when you're poor, it's like, I could love Ferraris. And it's like, when you're poor, you're never going to have money, right? So that's great. You have that hobby, but you're never going to touch one. So for sneakers, it's kind of the same thing. Obviously, it's a little more achievable than a Ferrari, but it was the same kind of thing where like I couldn't afford multiple pairs any given few months. So now that I can, I'm able to pick that back up. And I think, as a adult child, like I'm digging back in. I have the full 1988 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mint on card. Wow. I've got the Jordan rookie season collection. And I got that because obviously I think they're good investments down the road. And I think 10, 20 years, they're going to appreciate pretty well. But also because it's what I loved. And I think surrounding yourself with things that you love, especially if you grew up poor and weren't able to get them as an adult gives you kind of that peace of mind and that contentment that it makes you happy.
Sort of like closure, right?
Yeah, closure to a certain extent. I think also surrounding yourself with what makes you happy is going to allow you to be a happier person for those around you. And again, when I have 80 team members at Forum and 20 at Vice, and I have this mental health board that I'm on, I have to put on a smile. I have to be my best self. And what helps doing that, going home and having things that I love in close proximity. My wife will clown me about it, but she'll come in and I'm looking at my Leonardo Ninja Turtle action figure. And she's like, what the hell are you doing? It's what I do. It gives me contentment. It is what it is. Don't ask questions. Go away. But yeah, we all find that contentment in different ways. For me, it's rekindling the good of my childhood because I think I internalized a lot of the bad. So I think bringing back some of the good helps me bury that chapter even further.
I think that's awesome. And so I guess to close out, what are your top 5? We're going to call it the 555. What's your top 5 advice to those aspiring to run their own business, run their own nightlife spot or whatnot. And then also top 5 sneakers in your collection and top 5 toys in your collection.
Toys. Okay. Top 5. So advice, I don't know if it'll be 5, but I'll a lot of the advice I give. One, there's a lot of people I know, some tech guys, they'll come in and they'll be like, I want to own a bar. It seems fun. It seems cool. Some of them will do it to meet girls. And I'm like, really, guys? But don't do it for that.
Yeah.
Do it because you literally love what you do. Again, I'm dabbling into businesses that I have previous experience in. Like I was mopping up vomit at 18 years old as a bar back. I was a VIP host. I was a server. I was all these things. So I think you respect what business you're starting more by getting your feet wet in it. And so don't just do something because you want to do it. Dig into it, learn as much as humanly possible about it, and give that industry the respect it deserves. Otherwise, you will fail. If you don't know anything about the restaurant F&B industry, go learn it. It's one of the highest probability of failure is restaurants. You know what I mean? So learn it. And then your business partners, do it with people that that you have a real connection with. So don't just do it with, maybe a local celebrity or someone trying to off their name. Do it with people that their personality type fits with yours, right?
Yeah.
Do it with who their integrity speaks volumes, not just their name. Align yourself with people who have these foundational values. And then, when you have maybe disagreements or things like that, people who have integrity, people who know the space are going to be much better to have disagreements with than people who are just bringing a name to the table who want to have these off the wall ideas.
Yeah.
Right. I would say, other than that, those are 2 big ones for me. I'm like starting small. Granted, I dove in the deep end with the 20,000 square foot entertainment venue, but I think that was more of an exception than the rule. So I would say start small and get proof of concept instead of starting big like we did to get proof of concept. Because again, there was very manic lows and we came very close to closure through COVID. But start small and build from there instead of trying to bite off more than you can chew. And then I would say anybody who wants to manage people, understand where that trajectory is going. And it's no longer talking down to people. It's no longer, do as I say, not do as I do. It's leading by example. It's, digging in and, not being a part of that outdated management type. So I think anyone who gets in the management regardless or managing people, they understand those things and they be a part of that, upcoming age of leading by example and practicing what you preach instead of, just being a talking head. Yeah, that was 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, that's good. No, that was really good. You doubled up on some of them.
Yeah. And then sneakers. So Trophy Room Jordan 1s. I got the Travis Scott Mochas I love. See, this top 5 goes really quick. The Travis Scott Mochas, the Trophy Room Jordan 1s. My favorite Jordans are Jordan 5s and 1s. Those are my favorites. So I have both the Jordan Off-White 5s. And then, so that's 4.
Could you pull up the Jordan 5s on here? I want to see these things.
It's just my style. So you watch Fresh Prince.
Oh yeah.
So the Bel Airs.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's always been my favorite. And then the Off-White ones, the Chicago ones. Those are staples for me. I was like blessed enough to be at Q Nightclub when we booked Virgil Abloh. People don't know he was a DJ for a while.
Really?
And so
you booked him as a DJ.
Yeah, he did his DJ set.
Wow.
I remember his contract rider.
Yeah.
It was like 20 white tees and like just tons of I was like, that's a random rider. But I was like, oh, it's Virgil Abloh. I was like, oh, he's got an interesting rider. But so many kids came in. I wish I had my freaking shoes, but to sign their Off-White pair. I'm like, oh man. Would have loved that.
You got the contract signed.
Yeah, I know. I know. Where is that? I didn't think about that.
Was it a DocuSign?
Probably. But yeah, so that was really cool experience. But
wow.
Yeah, I love sneakers. And then my toys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, man. 1 through 4. Raphael, Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, mint on card. I got those 4, which I'm really happy about. And then aside from that, I have so there was this show called Face Off on Sci-Fi Channel. And one of the contestants there's these 2 characters on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle called Bebop and Rocksteady. And so Bebop was this pig with this thing in his thing. And so the person on Face Off created this big life-size head of Bebop and from Face Off. And
is that it?
Yep. So he's on the right. There's Bebop. And so this big life-size head of what looks like a legit real-life Bebop. And so I found it on an auction site, and I saw the TV show it was off from Face Off. They were one of the finalists. And then on the bottom of the placard, they had the creator of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sign it.
Wow.
And do a little doodle of Bebop. So that's probably my favorite one, is this big, and my wife hates it. And it's this big pig head with like neon hair coming out. And she freaking hates it. But it's in my office, and it's signed by the Ninja Turtle creators.
That's awesome.
And
man.
it's that Bebop. But obviously you can imagine, like, late at night, my wife walking by my office
it just
and
freaks out.
seeing a pig head staring at her. But to each their own. She likes horses, and it's an expensive hobby, so tit for tat.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Of course, bro.
Really,
this was awesome.
Inspirational story. And
thanks, man.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks, man. We go way back, so I appreciate you're always doing your thing, man, and being here to help support you, dude. It was a no-brainer. So
thank you. Yeah. All right.